Popo. So today, even though in an earlier episode I was talking about narcissistic abuse, and I think I came out of the gate saying that I don't really like talking about that topic anymore, I have to say that I still have trigger anniversaries. And this is where narcissistic abuse overlaps with my PTSD. If for those of you who don't have PTSD, I'll explain how my version of it works. And I think it's similar for a lot of people, is that if I have a trigger anniversary, even if I'm not looking at the calendar, my body will remember, and it can sometimes prompt me to do things that I otherwise wouldn't do, because I work really hard in therapy and recovery groups and with some self-help books to try to change my behavior and achieve emotional sobriety. But sometimes it sneaks up on me. So today I'm going to give an example of that, and this includes some embarrassing behavior, but we're all humans, and hopefully we're all just, trying to get better. I'm trying to get better. So I'll share this embarrassing story, and maybe if you've done similar embarrassing things, maybe it'll console you a little bit. Or you can just laugh at me if you want. So February 14th was a trauma anniversary for me. And I know for a lot of people, February 14th, that's Valentine's Day. So am I being triggered by this big made up holiday that's designed to make people feel lonely, as far as I'm concerned? And the truth is, no. I have always, I kind of dig Valentine's Day. I mean, I'm not a holiday person in general, but many years ago, I started reclaiming the day for myself. I used to do a show at Book People called Free Sex in Public, which was kind of a misnomer. It was just me and a bunch of friends getting together and reading whatever we wanted, or bemoaning like the dating world or whatever. And then I feel like I did another show. I guess I used to do some shows at High Park Theater, maybe, on the same topic. I can't even remember now. But the point is, I just would take the day lightly, an excuse to eat chocolate or whatever. I don't care. But 3 years ago, on February 14th, so I guess that was 2017, that's when I found out that the guy I was with, who was a narcissistic abuser, was also a meth addict, which I mean, I look back now and the guy was a red flag factory, but I'm also a denial factory. It's a pretty good combination if you want to have a messy life. So I didn't know anything about meth. I mean, I'm not been a hard drug person. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And when I found out the news, which was delivered to me by his adult daughter who called me, I kept trying to reach him by phone, and he was ghosting me, and it was very stressful. And I don't really need to dwell on that story, except to say that I know for a fact that my body memorized that traumatic evening. And then I stuck around for a few more months, and I got, like, at one point I was Googling, meth's not really that bad for you, is it? Like, this is how deep in denial I was. Fortunately, the relationship ended. I was very stressed out. That wasn't fortunate, but the good news is that's what really catapulted me into doing a lot of work, learning how to do self-care and set boundaries, and just truly be responsible for myself and not keep getting in these sticky, toxic, codependent situations. And yet I have these little time bombs inside of me. So this year, February 14th rolled around, and I knew it was a trauma anniversary. I have a really, really, really keen memory for dates, and which doesn't always serve me. And I'm going to interrupt my own story and give another example. In 1986, in November, I had a miscarriage. I was in my early 20s, and for years afterwards, in mid-November, even if I wasn't really aware of the date, I would get really depressed. My body would cramp up. It was just like, there's a book called The Body Keeps the Score that shows all these studies that really examine how this internal trauma memory works. So let's jump back now to February 14th of this year. I know it's a trauma anniversary, but I say to myself, okay, it's a trauma anniversary. You've done a ton of work in therapy. You're going to be fine, no problem. Now I'm going to jump ahead to February 15th, and I look back on how I behaved on February 14th, and I can see clearly that I sorely lacked emotional sobriety that day. It's like I was drunk on emotion. And what I did, which I swore I wasn't going to tell, but I'm going to tell it because I think it's important for us to own our shit, is I had not done this in years, and I decided to look at the social media of this narcissistic abuser and this person he's with now who he used to cheat on with. I mean, like when I was with him, you get the picture. I have no idea, except for the fact that this trauma thing kind of made me drunk on emotions, what I was thinking. I didn't go there out of longing, and I didn't even go there out of anger. There was a time when I was so angry at this guy that I wanted him to die, and I wanted it to be a slow, painful death, and I wanted it to appear in a YouTube video that I could watch over and over at my leisure and like laugh over. And I had some other wicked fantasies, and that really dissipated. The more I learned how to take care of myself, I really didn't think about him at all. It was wonderful because there was a time in my life when I thought, I will never recover from this pain. I will never not think of all this shit that was done to me, but it was all gone. And then it comes back in, sneaks up on me. So I'm looking at this social media, and to my great relief, even though it was a very stupid thing to do, it proved to be an okay exercise. I do not recommend doing it. All of the narcissistic abuse experts say completely block the person. Don't look at their social media. Don't look at old emails. Don't, just nothing. You know, get rid of all reminders of them. Any gifts or whatever, just block them. So I'm looking, and all I'm thinking is, oh my God, I'm so lucky that I'm not in this situation anymore. And I'm reflecting on what prompted me to get into it in the first place and what prompted me to stick around. So in that way, I was able to use this incredibly stupid thing that I was doing as a way to measure my growth. And so that it worked out okay, but I don't ever want to do it again. I have a friend who calls, like when you look up somebody on social media, that's probably better that you don't. She calls that going to the poison well. It's just dumb. And then the other thing I did, and this kind of horrifies me, but it's not the first time I've done it, hopefully it's the last time, is that later that evening, I don't know what I was thinking, but I signed up, I opened an online dating account, and I'll just say which one it was. It was Bumble, right? Because the woman is in control. It's like at a strip bar. Who's in control, the stripper or the dudes? And the answer somebody told me is, the owner of the bar is in control. But anyway, I was just puzzled by my behavior because I'm not looking for a date. I feel very happy in my life. If I ever do have somebody come into my world again, I imagine this would have to be an organic process over a period of time. And it'll have to be incredibly non-traditional. But mostly I'm just working more and more and more on being comfortable with being with myself and my dogs and all my livestock and my life. And yet, here I am. So I'd never used this particular app before, and I'm just Xing away. Maybe I went there just to be like, no, like I could reject people. I don't know. I am happy to report that within half an hour, probably within a half an hour, I just shut the whole thing down. And this too, even though I feel like it was a pretty dumb thing for me to do, it turned out to be an okay exercise. Again, I'm not suggesting that you, this example that comes to mind is like, if you're a recovering alcoholic, don't get the tiramisu with the booze in it. Like, just don't go to the poison well. But the way that it turned out well for me is, I'm just looking at all these guys, and I know I shouldn't be so judgmental. I don't want someone to look at my profile and be like, oh, she's too old or she's too weird or whatever. But I would see across the board, like sunglasses inside, or the sunglasses and the baseball hat, so we can't really see what this person looks like. Because yes, you judge the book by the cover on these apps. They're all Christian. They all drink alcohol. Most of them seem to have kids that aren't out of the house yet. And I'm like, so I'm thinking of going to meet a stranger who potentially is going to get drunk and ask me to raise his children and not take his sunglasses off in the house. and wants me to go to church. Like, it was so laughable to me. And in the end, it really reinforced what I truly want in my life, which is I want to have fun, and I don't want to try to force somebody in my life. So this in turn reminded me of times in the past when I got on like OkCupid or Match, or I think one time I signed up for eHarmony, and invariably I will shut it all down within like 24 to 72 hours. But I thought about the profiles that I used to make for myself, and it's hilarious. It's like, it's cause for self-examination because I don't have screenshots anymore. I don't think I can dig around and see. But I think the way I presented myself was like, just like truly disillusioned, angry feminist, almost like a stereotypical angry feminist. The questions would be like, well, what do you do on Friday night? And I would be like, well, duh, I sit at home and listen to the radio and knit. Doesn't everybody do that? Or I would say, like, when it would ask, what are you looking for? And I would make a list like, no assholes, no. It was all about like negativity. So it's weird. In my line of work, performing weddings, I mean, I have several lines of work, but one of my lines of work is performing weddings. I meet a lot of couples who meet online. That's a tool that they use. It's fine for them, and their goal is to get married. I've been married twice. I don't ever want to get married again. And so it's being in this line of work kind of skews my perception sometimes, I think. I've got this friend, the same one, my friend Carol, who talks about the poison well, who she likens me to a dry bartender. Like, I rarely tell clients that I'm the twice divorced wedding officiant. Not that my track record with marriage should affect my ability to perform weddings, but probably not great for business. And I'm like Sam in Cheers, is that I am perpetually around people on this allegedly happiest day of their life, where they're looking deeply into each other's eyes, and they're weeping, and they're reading each other these words. And I'm not cynical about it. You know, I feel like they really mean, most of them really mean what they say, and they really, this is a big, exciting day for them. And it's not a day for them to be thinking like, oh gosh, in 3 months we're going to be screaming at each other, or in 10 years we're going to get divorced. That's not what it's about. I like the love buzz that I get. I like the hope that I feel. But I think that's probably enough for me. I think I put Popo to sleep with this. Popo is like, she doesn't give a shit about dating. She has Norris, and they wrestle, and they sleep next to each other. And that's enough for them. So something that I'm doing in my life is every day I get up, I tell myself good morning. I tell myself I'm going to have a happy day. I tell myself I love myself, which sounds very Stuart Smalley, and I admit it feels a little weird. But the more I do it, the more content I get just being in a relationship with myself. And recently, I feel like I'm ripping off Russell Brand here because he already did a little blogcast about this. But in case you missed his blogcast, he was talking about how Emma Watson, I think is her name. She's this actress, and she's calling herself, she's self-partnered. And as an English major, that term kind of annoys me because it's not oxymoronic. It's just incorrect. You can't like self-partner. That's so weird. And just like Russell Brand, it got me thinking of Gwyneth and how she consciously uncoupled. But even though I think these words and phrases are pretty fucking cheesy, at the root of them, there's some really great concepts, like conscious uncoupling. I can't even believe I'm talking about it, but I'm just going to talk about it for a minute. It really is like when two people recognize that instead of blaming each other and being angry and trying to go to the War of the Roses place where you're just trying to destroy each other, is that we all come to these situations of partnership completely shaped by all the things that happened before. And then we all project a lot, and that it's not anybody's fault. I mean, it can be somebody's fault, like if they forget to mention they're addicted to meth and they're cheating. But in general, many of us, we're trying the best that we can. So as far as the self-partnering thing goes, is that something I've been thinking about for decades now, but I find that I'm thinking about it with more intent and consciousness, is just how deeply, deeply entrenched all of us are in the conditioning that we grew up with. You know, a friend of mine calls it the Disney finish. Like, you have to have a partner and you have to work it out. And this is the only way that you'll fulfill yourself and find joy and so on and so forth. It just never worked out for me that way. So I get up once I'm done telling myself good morning and that I love myself. I treat myself very well. I think about, what do I want to do today? And I recall, like, I used to dedicate so much of my time when I was in relationships to, how can I make this person happy? Or I'm just going to spend some money on this item to bring them joy. Or I'm going to take us to a restaurant that's like beyond my reach, or whatever it was. And these days, I'm getting better at, not that it needs to be about spending money, but if I want to spend money on something like taking myself to a nice restaurant, or I'm redoing my bedroom right now, if I hesitate at all, I think to myself, well, you didn't hesitate in the past at all to like just pour so much time and energy and love and effort and money into another person. It's time to take care of yourself. So that is my ramble for today. Where did we begin? I want to kind of tie it up and go back to the beginning, which is, I don't love that I got triggered on February the 14th, but I'm really grateful that all the work that I'm doing helped me to recover very, very quickly. And just one day later, look back and recognize I still have some work to do, but just because I fell into the hole for a day, I don't need to go all the way into the hole. And that I can just keep getting better and better. And that if I keep talking like this, I can probably bore this dog to death. Hey y'all, thanks a lot for tuning in. I hope you'll like and subscribe to my channel. And if you like this episode, I hope that you'll copy this link, share it with a friend, paint it on a wall, put it on your social media. That'd be great. Thanks a million. Take it easy.